Like I'm talking about fight IQ, and I lose my own fight IQ getting caught up in the moment a lot of times. Like a couple of my losses, I feel like was my own fault. You don't play fighting. You kind of, especially the way I do it, I put my life on the line every time I go in there. Because sometimes there's going to be things about a really good coach that you don't like that make them the good coach. I'll bring up Ilya again. Like he knew Charles was going to come to him in his last fight, and he just let him come to him, and he just threw that right hand, knowing Charles was going to double the impact by coming into it. Like that's just high fight IQ right there. Because you kind of give a part of your body every time you get in there, and I don't want to do it for a couple $1,000 and then for like a couple thousand people to see.
What do you think distinguishes a mediocre striker and a great striker, in your opinion? If you're a combat sports athlete, there's one disgusting habit I know you're all guilty of, and that's forgetting to clean your mouth guard. Did you know that the bacteria and mold that can grow in your mouth guard even overnight can cause dental and gum health problems and can make you super sick? And the last thing any combat sports athlete wants is to get sick right before that big fight or competition. That's why it's important to keep your mouth guard clean, which is why I use the Grilla Box self-cleaning mouth guard case. All you have to do is release the cleaning solution, shake, and drain. So convenient, you'll never have to wear an unwashed mouth guard again. Use code FIGHTERS10 for 10% off your Grilla Box order. Joined today by Hurricane Shane Burgos. You've had an incredible MMA career fighting in the UFC and the PFL. Shane, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So we haven't heard very much about you since your last fight with the PFL. Give us a little bit of an update of what you've been up to and what life has been like since your last pro fight.
Well, since my last pro fight, a lot in life's changed. I moved down to Florida, West Coast Florida, like the Sarasota area. So that's been a huge change in my life. Working on opening up my own gym down here. So I'm excited for that. With my team that's back up north, I want to open a franchise down here, yeah, and bring it to this part of Florida. So I'm excited about that. As for the fighting, yeah, I haven't fought since my last fight in the PFL. Had some contract negotiations that didn't go the way I wanted them to go. So technically, I'm a free agent right now. I would love, 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 love. Perfect storybook ending is for me to finish my career in the UFC. That's ideal. I would love to be able to do that. I would love to be able to get on this MSG card that's coming up soon. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I've got a couple of different offers from other promotions and stuff, but nothing that's been, in my opinion, worth getting off the couch for, if you know what I mean, especially with the way that I fight. Like I fight pretty fun, pretty entertaining, right? But so I feel like I either need to get compensated for it, meaning I need to get paid well, or I need to have some sort of guarantee that that one's going to get me to the UFC, or at the very least have it be on a very exciting or a lot of attention on it. Like I don't want to fight on a show and have this crazy fight and then nobody sees it. You know what I mean? Because you don't play fighting. You kind of, especially the way I do it, I put my life on the line every time I go in there. So if I'm going to do that, I want to be compensated. I want to have a good opponent, or I want it to be like a guarantee that this one will get me to the UFC.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. I know all of the MMA fans would love to see you make that UFC return. Is there any kind of names in mind that you'd really, really want for that UFC return?
Man, there's so many fun fights at lightweight. You know what's somebody like tagged like a potential it was like a fake mock card for MSG, and it was me versus Bobby Green, and I was like, man, that would be a fun fight. Like the last time I fought at MSG in the UFC, I think he was in the locker room, or maybe not the last time, the time before that. He was in the locker room with me, and I was at a different weight class. I never even thought about that as a potential matchup, but I'm like, man, on paper, that's a fun fight right there. Me versus Bobby Green, especially like MSG, that would be a fun fight.
Yeah, yeah, no, that would be super, super fun. And so you want the MSG card. Are there any other kind of venues on your fighting bucket list that you want to fight at before you retire?
Um, I always thought it would be cool to fight like all over the world when I was younger. I thought that was like the coolest thing, but like the time zone difference and then the dieting and all that stuff, man, I'm cool with just fighting at MSG, which is only an hour away from the town that I'm from. So I'm cool with just always fighting at MSG. Honestly, I've done it 4 times at this point, so I'm cool with that. But I love Vegas. Vegas is cool. I fought there twice already. I'm open to anything, honestly, if it's worth it.
Totally. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So I want to get into a little bit about your background. So I've been doing like a ton of research on you, and you have such an interesting background with your training, because I know you started as a kid and then you had a scoliosis diagnosis, and I think a lot of people don't know about that. Tell us a little bit about that when you were a kid and how you had to kind of overcome and adapt your training to be able to still pursue your dreams as an MMA fighter.
Yeah, so I got diagnosed, if you will, with scoliosis when I was like in sixth or seventh grade, and they're like, "Oh, we'll just keep an eye on it. It's a 24-degree curve, but we'll just keep an eye on it. We won't do anything. You don't have to wear the brace or anything. We'll just focus on. We'll check it again next year." And then the next year came, and it went from like 24 degrees to 49 degrees, and they're like, "Oh, didn't expect that." So my spine kind of looked like a question mark. I was hunching to my left, and I still have, like, you can see, like, my rib cage is a little shifted. But that I found out I'm going to need surgery only after like 8 months of training. I had just found training. I was like, this is the most fun thing ever. It was like a love at first sight kind of, or love at first experience. The first time I stepped on the mat, I instantly became addicted. And then like 8 months later, I found out I'm gonna have to have surgery. And then the doctor tells me, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to do that and stuff. I was like, what do you mean I'm not going to be able to do it? And I was like, my whole world came crashing down, like being a 16-year-old kid, finally finding something you love, and then being told, yeah, you can't do that anymore. And especially being a 16-year-old kid, I'm not the smartest. So I got the surgery, and then 2 months later, I was back on the mat training, which is stupid. I had a lot of people DM me on Instagram asking me about it, and it was dumb. If I could rewind time, I wouldn't have done that because I actually messed up my back and almost needed to get surgery again, coming back too soon. Um, doctor was pissed. I went to the doctor. We did X-rays again. And he was like, "What do you? 2 months after training, after surgery, you went back to training?" He's like, "Listen, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna see you back in 1 month. I want you doing nothing, nothing,
Oh
because what
my
we're gonna have to do
gosh.
probably is you're probably gonna have to get another surgery." And I was like, "No, no, no, no! I swear, I promise." I was like, "I won't do anything." So I didn't do shit for that entire month. Came back, I got another X-rays, and he was like, "Okay, your spine has fused with the rods. You're good." Once he said that, I was like, "All right," and it's been back to training, and I haven't stopped since. So it's been it, I didn't really have to adjust anything. The only thing I did since having, sorry, my kids here. The only thing I've done since having the surgery is focus on PT. That's been like a huge part of my being able to train, just having PT, whether I feel good or bad. I'm always doing PT on my back.
That's such a crazy story. Wow. And so I love that you mentioned that it was just like you loved it as soon as you tried training. Was there any kind of inkling of wanting to do something else with your life? Or as soon as you started training, you were like, it's MMA all the way?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't think I would be a fighter. I thought maybe I'd be like a referee or a commentator. I was like, those guys are crazy. I can't be one of those guys. But I was like, maybe I could do something like this. It was like I never felt something like that, especially being like 16. All my friends in college, all my friends in high school, all the kids were getting ready to go to college, talking about what they wanted to do and stuff. And I was like, I hate school, bro. I was like, I don't have a clue. I was like, I don't have a clue. And then I find that, and I was like, I don't know what it is, but it's gonna involve this. I'm 100% certain. And then look where it's taking me.
That's so crazy. Were there any fighters that you kind of looked up to when you started to kind of, that were inspiring and that you loved their style and tried to like take bits and pieces for your own training?
Yeah, Nick and Nate Diaz. I was big fans of them for a long time. But funny that my first favorite fighter was Matt Hughes, which is the complete opposite of my style. Just because the first fight I ever seen was Matt Hughes slamming Carlos Newton and winning the welterweight title. That was the first fight I ever seen, and I was like, "What is this?" Mind blown. So I had like a special place for Matt Hughes. Like he was the one that really brought me over to the sport. But I'm also like, it's funny because all my favorite fighters usually don't really fight like me. I'm a big fan of Mirko Cro Cop. He's a southpaw, kicks everybody in the head. Right now, my favorite fighter, like pound for pound, and like just for the skill, is Ilia Topuria. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch right now.
He's incredible. Yeah, it's such a treat to have him in the UFC as a fan, just watching him fight. It's super, super
Yeah,
exciting. Yeah. So I want to
he can
ask
do
a little
everything.
bit. Yes, he's super well-rounded as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I
it's
want to
amazing to
ask
watch.
some more kind of like technical questions about training and kind of like advice that you have for people that are training and trying to like develop a style similar to yours. So what kind of advice would you have for people that are starting and wanting to develop a game that's a bit more like kind of oriented towards striking?
Sorry, my kid. 1 second. Mommy went to get Avery. Okay, 1 second. She'll be back in 1 minute. I'm sorry. Can you ask me that again?
Don't worry, don't worry. So what advice do you have for beginners that are training and that want to kind of develop a game oriented more towards striking?
Oh man, I would say find a good coach. That's like the number one thing. Find a good coach that's super anal and super analytical and super like detail oriented. I'd say that is massive. Find that coach, and it's hard for me to say, like, because if you're completely new to the sport, you can't tell the difference. But I would say try different spots out and see what you like and what you don't like. And but I don't even know if I should say what you don't like because sometimes there's going to be things about a really good coach that you don't like that make them the good coach. So I would say you got to have discernment with that. But I would definitely say try some different spots. I was blessed enough to just be able to like land in the perfect spot, like God aligned it, all the stars for me. Like I landed in the gym that I've been training at since I was 15 years old, and I've been with the same team ever since, and have phenomenal coaching.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think that that's a pretty big mistake that beginners do is they just start at a gym and go all in with it. But I mean, there's a lot of things. There's the coaching, there's the culture of the gym. You want to find one that works for you,
Yeah,
try around a couple
yeah,
different places. That's great advice.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that is, culture is definitely a part of the gym. Like you got to feel comfortable in it. You don't want it to feel too much like a friendship between you and your coach. It's got to be
Hmm.
he's your coach, but he says goes. Like that becomes a little bit muddy sometimes because you do become friends with your coach, but you got to realize like at the end of the day, it's almost like a father son kind of aspect, like where he's telling you what to do even when you don't want to do it, and you got to do it.
Totally, totally. And as a talented striker, what are three things that people can do in training to improve their striking? If you had to boil it down to like three, only three things.
Um, Oof, film study, watching some of the best fighters when it comes to striking. I'd say that is huge, and then mimicking them, trying the things that they do. So that's one I'd say film study on on the strikers, on the guys that are, and not just specifically in mixed martial arts. Watch good boxers, watch good kickboxers, and then watch good mixed martial artists. Another thing I'd say is shadow boxing, like looking at yourself, and not just shadow boxing, but film study on yourself too. Watch your sparring back. I think that is huge, and then again, you got to have a coach that's gonna hold you accountable, and a coach that's gonna call out the little tiny mistakes that you're making. Like Shane, when you're throwing your right hand, your left hand's dropping just a little bit. Just break it up, like little things like that. Like finding a good coach like that is it's huge.
Yeah, totally. And with the film study, I think a lot of people struggle with finding the right people to study. Do you recommend that people study like people with the same kind of body types and same kind of strengths and weaknesses, or how do you find someone to study?
Yes, exactly. So if you're a southpaw and you're watching orthodox fighters the entire time, it's not going to be exactly the same. It's completely different when you watch an orthodox fighter and a southpaw fighter. So if you're southpaw, I would say study the southpaws. If you're an orthodox, study the orthodox. There's things you can steal from each other, the other side, but I would say yes, find somebody with a similar style to you when it comes to your actual body. Because if I'm watching a guy that's 5'6" and a 65-inch reach, whatever he's doing isn't necessarily going to work for me because I'm the complete opposite of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
question.
no, that
Solid
makes
question.
sense.
Good question.
Yeah, yeah, I think that it's something that a lot of people struggle with. And I know when I was doing more striking, I was like studying the wrong people, studying super tall, lanky people when it's like that's not the style that's ever going to work for me. Yeah.
That's a great point. I honestly didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So, what do you think distinguishes a mediocre striker and a great striker, in your opinion?
Timing. Timing is everything. It's not like the guy that can make you miss by like half a centimeter and then hit you and make you pay for that is the perfect thing. Timing, and then I guess it goes hand in hand with fight IQ, knowing exactly what's going to work. Like again, I bring up Ilya again. Like he knew Charles was going to come to him in his last fight, and he just let him come to him, and he just threw that right hand, knowing Charles was going to double the impact by coming into it. Like that's just high fight IQ right there.
Yeah, totally. How do you develop skills like that?
That's one of the things. Like not everybody has it. Like the guys at the very top, like that's something that you necessarily I don't even know. Like there's things you can do to help get you better, like the film study and like all that stuff that I mentioned before. But there's some things that some guys just have that it factor, and that's one of the guys that he just has that impeccable timing.
Interesting. Interesting. So how has your training evolved as you've kind of progressed throughout your career, starting as because I think as you develop through your career, you start to understand what you need a little bit better and what works for you best. So how has your training evolved?
Another good question. That's one of the things like you know it's like a double-edged sword. What gets you so good at fighting is fighting. You know what I mean? Like hard sparring is really what's going to get you that good. So I did do a lot of hard sparring in the beginning of my career when I was an amateur, and then the beginning of my pros, even in the beginning of my UFC career. As I gotten older and as I gotten more seasoned, I slowed down on the hard sparring. Doesn't mean I don't hard spar. Instead of doing it 2, 3 times a week, I'm only doing it once a week, like max. And on the flip side of the hard sparring, I'm doing more flow sparring rounds, more rounds where it's like touch sparring, where you're not leaving with a headache or leaving with bruised body parts and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I think that's as you get older, you can't replace hard sparring. You do need that for that timing. But as you get older, it's just going to start taking away from you. So I think tapering it down to once a week max is an ideal balance.
Totally. Yeah, that makes sense. That brings me to another question I've been meaning to ask you. You obviously have been in some wars, your style, like it's like fight of
Yeah.
the night style, you know. I want to ask just kind of like personally, is it more fun for you to get into like a total scrappy war, or would you rather just have like a clean finish early in the fight?
Oh man, I would never complain about getting a clean finish early in the fight, but it is a lot of fun to get into those wars. You get caught up in the
Mhm.
moment, which, it, like I'm talking about fight IQ, and I lose my own fight IQ getting caught up in the moment a lot of times. Like that's a couple of my losses. I feel like was my own fault by just getting caught up in the fun that I was having for the fight. But like one of my fights that I had with Kurt Holloway, like he knocked me down, and then I armbarred him, and the fight was done in about I think it was like 2 minutes or something like that. And I remember being like, "Yeah, let's go," and then being like, "Well, damn, it's done. That's it." I was like, at that point, I had a 10-month layoff too, so I was like, "Man, I wish it went a little bit longer." I was like, 9 months, 10 months off, and I was like, I fought for 2 minutes. I was like, oh, and again, I had no bumps, bruises, nothing on me. I was like, I was a little bit frustrated with that one.
That's so, so funny. Oh my gosh. But you know, like those exciting wars, those fight of the nights bangers, those are the ones that, you know, you're known for by the fans, and it builds up your career and kind of your like your notoriety with the fans. We love that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's something I don't necessarily plan on doing. It just happens that way. So that's what I'm saying. Like if I'm gonna go back into another fight, which I want it to be in the UFC. I want the world to see it. I want like if I'm gonna because you kind of give a part of your body every time you get in there, and I don't want to do it for a couple $1,000 and then for like a couple thousand people to see. I want it to be like I like putting on those bangers that like everybody is talking about, like win or lose. I'm an exciting fighter. I know that, and I don't want it to be for nothing if I'm going to do it again. And so I need it needs to be worth it for me.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. I do want to ask you about the obviously you fought for the UFC and the PFL, and I think you have an interesting perspective from being in both promotions. What are some of the strengths and weaknesses from the promotions that you experience as a fighter, but we don't necessarily see as fans?
That's a good question. Both are super. I mean, the UFC is like a phenomenally well-oiled machine. Like the backstage stuff that nobody really sees, the fans don't see. Like it's so freaking smooth. Like the team they have is top notch. But then going to the PFL, it was a pretty seamless transition. They did a really good job with that background stuff too. UFC is obviously the best, but it wasn't like a huge drop off from the UFC to the PFL. The only thing I'd say, like for the PFL, I guess is the social media and the marketing. I don't know, like the last fight I had with them, like it got voted fight like one of the best fights of the year, and I feel like I was proud of that, and I was happy I got paid very well for that fight. But I'm like, not enough people saw that fight, man. So it pisses me off that I put on such a good fight. Like I feel like if I was in the UFC, that fight is fight of the year. I feel like that for damn sure. So it kind of sucks in that scheme, and I can't really speak too much of that because I don't know social media like people that they're hiring to know social media. Um, but a lot of the stuff that the UFC does is it's just all about the fights. And then some of the stuff that the PFL did that it was a little bit more like a gimmicky. Like they did some like gimmicky stuff that I was even like, oh, I don't even like this, man. It's like corny. I don't like that. And that's not to shit on them or anything like that. It's just me being honest. Um, Sell the fights. Like you have really good fighters. You have good stories with the fighters. I'd say go more into that instead of the gimmicky stuff with the social media influencers and all that shit. Like focus on the fights and the stories behind the fights more so than anything. So I'd say they could do a little bit better job with that.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think that's something that UFC does well. I still want to see more of it. You know, I love seeing the like the stories behind the fights and
Yes.
more about the fighters themselves, but it is really like fight central with the UFC.
And
Yeah.
that's funny. Like my wife says that like if my wife doesn't know any of the fighters on the card, she doesn't really want to watch it. But when it's like Connor or Dustin or Ilya, like some where she's watched the countdown show and she knows the background about them, then she's sucked into it. So I think for the casual fans too, especially like it just pulls you in more.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. I've always said that that was what brought me into MMA in the first place, and I think with women especially, not to generalize or anything, but I
Yeah,
think we're more drawn to the stories and the personalities and
yeah.
stuff, and I think the UFC does a great job with that.
100%, 100%. Like countdown shows, like I started with Ultimate Fighter. The Ultimate Fighter was cool because you get to know these guys and then they go and fight. So it's kind of same like the
Yes.
same thing for me.
Yeah, totally. It makes it super exciting. So, we sent you a self-cleaning mouth guard, the Gorilla Box. What do you think about it? Have you
I got
tried
it.
it out?
I got I got it in the back. You know what's funny? I when I got it, I got tattooed. So I haven't trained it at all this week. So I haven't technically tried it out, but I have it set. My mouthpiece in it.
Oh, that's awesome. It's super, super cool. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah,
I'm sure I will. Honestly, like mouthpieces are pretty gross too. So I'm like, oh, this is actually something I feel like I would use.
totally. And I feel like it's a lot of people just forget to clean it and it smells and it's
Oh,
gross. So I love the Gorilla Box.
especially dudes. I guarantee you none of us clean it. I mean, I cleaned it probably twice ever. I've had it for years. Yeah.
No, I don't even want to hear
Yeah.
that. Man, so when people think about Shane Burgos and your entire career, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind in your MMA career?
Oh man. I was a fighter's fighter. I mean, I was a fan-friendly fighter. I always left it in the cage. Like I feel like I did always give it my absolute best. Like it was live by the sword, die by the sword. Was my mentality for every single fight that I've been in. So I feel like that shows too. So I do think that I'll be remembered for that. Hopefully at least. I've had only 5 losses and 4 of them got fight on the night. You know what I mean? So like I really do. I do take some pride in how I perform. I love the sport. The sport gave me everything. It gave me so much. Like I met my wife through the sport. I have 3 beautiful daughters through the sport. Like man, I love this sport so much. Like when I'm done with fighting, it will always be part of my life until the day that I die. I eat, sleep, and breathe the sport. Even when I'm not competing, I'm obsessed with it. I love it. I'm training all the time. I'm watching it all the time. Yeah, so I owe my entire life basically almost to mixed martial arts. Jesus first, and then mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I love that. Wow, that's super special. So before we finish off, I like to ask everyone if you had to give one piece of advice for someone that's coming up in the sport and wants to pursue your follow in your footsteps and pursue a career in professional MMA, what kind of advice would you give them?
Find a good team. Find a good team. And that doesn't necessarily mean you got to find these mega gyms or anything like that. You got to find a coach that actually cares about you, is super analytical and anal about the details, and knows their stuff and isn't going to be just a yes man. It's going to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to give you stuff. And that's the thing. Be coachable. Be coachable. Be willing to take criticism and search for the criticism. If you had a great round, ask your coach what you could have done better that round. What are some things I could have done even better? And if they don't have anything for you, then maybe you need to find a new coach.